My fiancé insisted I transfer a hefty 25% stake of the multi-million-dollar company I built from the ground up to her parents, then flat out threatened to cancel our wedding if I didn't comply. So, on the morning of the ceremony, I quietly invoked our prenup's clawback clause, redirected the shares back into my personal trust, and stood at the altar watching her face go pale as the reality of her own ultimatum crashed down around her, utterly speechless. I'm a 33-year-old guy, and honestly, I'm proud of what I built. My tech consulting firm isn't Google or Amazon, but it's mine. I started it from scratch, no help from family, no investors, no handouts. Just me, a laptop, and way too many sleepless nights. I gave up a lot to make it happen, skipped vacations, lived off ramen when I couldn't afford takeout, and said goodbye to anything resembling a work-life balance. So yeah, I'm pretty attached to what I created. About a year ago, I met Jenna. She's 29. At first, she seemed perfect, ambitious, confident, with this magnetic vibe that drew people in. She knew how to carry herself, how to talk, how to light up a room in ways I honestly couldn't. We started dating, and for a while, it felt like I'd finally found someone who understood the grind. Fast forward a year, and we got engaged. The proposal wasn't some grand gesture, just a quiet dinner, the two of us, and a simple, heartfelt question. She said yes. And for a little while, I was on cloud nine. Planning the wedding wasn't really my thing, but Jenna took charge like a pro. Venues, dresses, food, she handled it all, and I was just happy to support her. Or at least I thought I was. One night, about 3 months before the wedding, we were at the kitchen table. Jenna had her laptop open, scrolling through Pinterest, flowers, decorations. I wasn't really paying attention. I was sipping coffee, pretending to care about the difference between peonies and roses, when out of nowhere she said, "Babe," in that tone she uses when she's about to ask for something. "We need to talk about my parents," she said. I raised an eyebrow. "Okay, what about them?" She gave me this sweet smile, totally casual. "Don't you think we should do something special to thank them for everything they've done for us?" I blinked. "Didn't we just take them to Napa for the weekend? And I bought your dad that fancy watch you wanted. What more are you thinking?" She closed her laptop and leaned in like she was about to reveal a genius idea. "I was thinking, maybe you could give them a small stake in your business." At first, I thought I'd misheard her. "Wait, what? A small stake?" she repeated, like that made it more reasonable. "Just as a thank you. They've always wanted to be part of something successful. It would mean so much to them." I just stared at her, trying to wrap my head around what she just said. "You want me to give your parents part of my company as a gift?" "Yes," she said, like it was the most normal request in the world. "It's a sign of trust, a way to show them you appreciate all they've done for me, and now for us." I laughed. I couldn't help it. I really thought she was joking. "Jenna," I said, "I built this thing from nothing. Your parents had no involvement. Why would I give them a share?" Her smile faded. She looked at me like I was the one being unreasonable. "Because they're family. My family's about to become your family. This isn't just about business. It's about connection, about showing that you value them." I set my coffee down, suddenly wide awake. "Jenna, I don't think you understand how business works. Giving someone a stake in my company isn't just a nice gesture. It's a legal financial commitment. This is how I make my living." She sighed, like I was the one being stubborn. "You're overthinking it. It's symbolic. They're not going to run the company or anything." I rubbed my temples, trying to stay calm. "It's not symbolic. It's real. Your parents didn't help me build this. They didn't invest in it. Why would I give them a piece of it?" Her tone changed, sharper, more defensive. "Because they're my parents, Aaron. Without them, I wouldn't even be here. Don't you think they deserve something?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They deserve respect, sure. But that doesn't mean handing over something I've poured my life into. The conversation ended there, at least for the night. But later, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just one weird moment. It was a sign of something deeper. Something off. Jenna's request wasn't just surprising, it was entitled. And the fact that she thought it was a reasonable thing to ask? That was a huge red flag. Looking back, I should have seen it sooner. Jenna had always been a little extravagant. She came from a family where money was never an issue. She expected the best without ever asking where it came from. I used to think that was just part of her personality. But now it felt like she was treating my business, my blood, sweat, and tears as some kind of bargaining chip. The next morning, I woke up hoping she'd change her mind. Maybe it had just been a weird idea she blurted out in the moment. People say dumb things when they're emotional, right? I figured we'd move past it. I was wrong. That morning, I made coffee like usual. For a minute, everything felt normal. She kissed me on the cheek, thanked me for the coffee, and started scrolling on her phone. Meanwhile, I opened my laptop and tried to focus on my emails. At first, I honestly thought maybe I'd overreacted. Maybe she'd just let it go. But, right on cue, she brought it up again. "Babe," she said, setting her phone down, "I've been thinking more about what we talked about last night." My stomach sank. There was only one thing what we talked about last night could mean. "Jenna," I began, already feeling drained. We don't need to go over this again. I thought we were done with that conversation. She gave me that practice smile she usually saved for convincing me to go to overpriced brunch places. I just think you're not seeing the bigger picture here. This isn't about money or control. It's about showing my parents that you value them like I do. I closed my laptop, realizing there was no getting out of this. Jenna, I respect your parents. I really do. But giving them a stake in my company isn't some big picture idea. It's a legal and financial disaster. I lean back in my chair, trying to stay calm. Once someone owns part of a business, it's theirs. It doesn't matter if they're involved or not. And no offense, but your parents don't know the first thing about running a tech company. She waved her hand, brushing it off. They don't need to. It's not about running anything. It's about making them feel appreciated. I stared at her, trying to figure out if she was actually serious. She was. The whole conversation played in my head the rest of the day. I couldn't focus at work. All I kept thinking was, is this what my life is going to be now? Constant guilt trips over unreasonable demands. That night, it got worse. We were watching TV on the couch when she suddenly turned to me. You know, if my parents had a stake in the company, it could actually help you too. I paused the show. What are you talking about now? They're really well connected, she said, flipping her hair like she was pitching a deal. My dad knows people in real estate, and my mom's in a bunch of women's entrepreneur groups. They could bring in new clients. I rubbed my temples. Jenna, my business doesn't need your parents' help. I've been growing it just fine on my own. But think of the potential, she said, her voice rising with excitement. With their connections, you could scale faster. This isn't just for them. It's for us, for our future. There was a shift. Now the demand wasn't about pleasing her parents. It was about our relationship. Jenna, I said slowly, if this is really about our future, then you should be supporting the business I've already built, not trying to hand part of it to your parents. She frowned, clearly not liking where I was going with this. I'm supporting you. I just think you're being short-sighted. My parents are excited about the wedding. This would make them feel like they're part of something special. It wasn't excitement. It was entitlement, plain and simple. But I wasn't ready to blow up at her. Not yet. Look, I said, I get that your parents matter to you, but this crosses a line. Her frown deepened, and for the first time, I saw something in her expression that unsettled me. She wasn't just upset. She was calculating. The next day, things took a turn I didn't expect. While I was at work, her mom called me. Hi, Aaron, she said in this overly cheerful tone that immediately put me on edge. I just wanted to thank you for being so thoughtful about including us in the business. Jenna mentioned your idea, and we're so touched. I almost dropped my phone. Excuse me? Oh, don't be modest, she laughed. Jenna said you're thinking about giving us a stake in your company as a wedding gift. That's such a generous gesture. You're already part of the family. I was stunned. It took me a second to even speak. I think there's been a misunderstanding. I never agreed to anything like that. Her tone shifted instantly. Oh, well, that's not what Jenna told us. Yeah, well, I said firmly, Jenna and I haven't exactly come to an agreement on this. And honestly, I'm not comfortable with it. There was a pause. I see. Well, I hope you'll reconsider. This means a lot to us. I ended the call, absolutely livid. Jenna had gone behind my back and pitched this idea like I'd already signed off on it. When I got home, I confronted her. Why did your mom call me about the business? She didn't even look guilty. I thought it might help if you heard how much it would mean to them. Help? Jenna, you made it sound like I agreed to this. She crossed her arms, getting defensive. You're making a big deal out of nothing. I was just trying to get everyone on the same page. The same page. I repeated, my voice rising. This isn't a group project. This is my business, my work, and you don't get to promise any part of it to anyone, especially not your parents. For the first time, I saw a flash of real anger in her eyes. If you can't do this one thing for me and my family, maybe you don't care about us as much as you say you do. I stared at her, stunned. Was she seriously trying to guilt trip me over this? You know what, Jenna? I said, if this is how you're going to act, maybe we need to rethink a few things. I walked out before she could respond, my mind racing. I didn't know where this was going, but one thing was clear. She wasn't backing down, and neither was I. I thought her behavior had peaked, but I was wrong. That was just the warm-up. What came next took the situation from annoying to outright toxic. The next morning, I called my best friend, Dave. If anyone could give it to me straight, it was him. After I told him everything, he let out a long whistle. Dude, this is bad. Like Run for the Hills bad. Yeah, no kidding, I muttered. Let me get this straight, he said. She's basically threatening to end things unless you hand part of your company over to her parents? Pretty much. And she doesn't get why that's nuts? Nope. Dave let out a short, disbelieving laugh. Man, I don't even know what to say. This isn't normal, at all. If she's this entitled now, just imagine what it's going to be like once you're married. Are you really sure you want to go through with this? That was the question, wasn't it? For the first time, I wasn't sure of the answer. That evening, Jenna hit me with the ultimatum. We were sitting in silence on the couch when she suddenly said, So, have you made your decision? Decision about what? I asked, even though I already knew. The shares, she said flatly. Are you going to do it or not? I looked her straight in the eyes. No, Jenna, I'm not. She leaned back and crossed her arms. Then maybe this relationship isn't going to work. For a moment, I just stared at her, trying to tell if she was bluffing. But her face told me she wasn't. Maybe it's not, I said. Her eyes widened. She clearly hadn't expected me to call her bluff. You're seriously willing to throw everything away over this? I could ask you the same thing, I said. You're the one making outrageous demands and threatening to walk when you don't get your way. What kind of foundation is that for a marriage? She didn't answer. She just stood up and walked out of the room. I sat there, surrounded by silence, and the truth hit me. This wasn't just a fight. This was a turning point. And no matter how it ended, things were never going to be the same. After her ultimatum, I spent the next day in a daze. My head was spinning. I couldn't focus on work. My mind kept replaying our argument over and over. I knew something had to change, but I wasn't sure what. Should I fight harder to make her see my side? Try to find some kind of compromise? Or was this relationship just falling apart? That's when I remembered my lawyer, Olivia. She wasn't just great at her job. She was a friend who'd been through some messy situations of her own. If anyone could give me straight-up, solid advice, it was her. I called Olivia and told her I needed to talk. She didn't even hesitate. Come by my office this afternoon, she said. We'll figure it out. When I walked in her office, Olivia met me with a grin and handed me a coffee. All right, Aaron, what's got you so rattled? I let out a long sigh and sat down, spilling everything. I told her about Jenna's demand, the guilt trips, the phone call from her mom, and finally, the ultimatum. As I spoke, Olivia's smile disappeared. Her face shifted from casual curiosity to pure disbelief. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair, arms crossed. Wow, that's a lot. Tell me about it, I muttered. Let me get this straight, she said. Your fiancé is asking you to give her parents a stake in your company. As a wedding gift? Yep. And she threatened to end the engagement if you don't? I nodded. Olivia let out a low whistle. Aaron, this is a giant red flag. Like wave it and earn run red flag. I know, I said. But what am I supposed to do? I love her. But this just feels like a line I can't cross. You're right, Olivia said, for now. You can't cross that line. Not just for your own sake, but for the future of your business. If you give away shares now, you're setting yourself up for legal and financial headaches. Like what? I asked, already bracing for the worst. For starters, she said, if you transfer shares to her parents, those shares are legally theirs. They could demand involvement in decisions, or even sell their stake. You'd lose control over that part of your business. And if you and Jenna do get married, things get even messy, eh? Those shares could become marital property, fair game in a divorce. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. So this could screw me over in more ways than one. Exactly, Olivia said. And let's be honest, if Jenna's making demands like this now, what's going to stop her from asking for more later on? I stared down at my coffee, silent. She was right. This wasn't just a one-time issue. It was a preview of a future I didn't want. What should I do? I asked finally. Olivia leaned forward, her tone serious. First, you need to protect yourself. Update your operating agreement to make sure no shares can be transferred without your explicit approval. And if you haven't already, keep your personal and business finances completely separate. Done, I said. I've always kept them separate. Good, she said. Now, about Jenna. You need to be crystal clear with her. No more maybe, or we'll talk about it. Tell her this isn't happening. End of discussion. If she can't accept that, well, she trailed off. But I knew what she meant. Yeah, I said quietly. I might have to end it. Olivia nodded, her expression softening. I know it's hard, Aaron, but you got to think long term. A healthy relationship doesn't come with ultimatums and manipulation. That night, I went home feeling more clear-headed than I had in days. Olivia's words kept echoing. A healthy relationship doesn't involve ultimatums. Jenna was sitting on the couch when I walked in, scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened. I set my bag down and stood in front of her. We need to talk, I said. She looked up, her face cautious. About what? About the business. Your parents. This whole situation. Jenna sighed like she was already exhausted. Aaron, we've been over this. I don't know why you're making such a big deal out of it. Because it's a big deal, I said. And you need to understand, I'm not giving your parents a stake in my company. Period. Her eyes narrowed. So that's it? You made up your mind, and I'm just supposed to accept it. Yes, I said firmly. Because this isn't about love or respect. It's about you and your parents trying to take something that doesn't belong to you. She stood up, her face flushed with anger. How dare you? My parents have done nothing but support us. And this is how you repay them? By being selfish and greedy. Selfish and greedy? I repeated, raising my voice. Jenna, I've gone out of my way to make your parents feel welcome. But giving them a piece of my business? That's not being supportive. That's being entitled. She crossed her arms, glaring. Fine. If you're going to be like this, maybe we shouldn't be getting married. Her words just hung there like a dare. But I didn't bite. Instead, I looked her in the eyes and said, that's what I've already decided. For a second, Jenna just stared at me. She clearly didn't expect me to hold my ground. The next morning, I called Olivia and told her what had happened. You did the right thing, she said. But be ready. Jenna's not going to go down easy. Not with that entitled mindset. And she was right. Over the next few days, Jenna went all in trying to make me the villain. She accused me of being cold, heartless, ungrateful. She would try to turn some of our mutual friends against me. Thankfully, most of them saw through the drama. By the end of the week, one thing was crystal clear. This relationship couldn't be saved. Jenna had shown me who she really was, and I couldn't unsee it. By the time we sat down to talk again, I was done playing nice. I had cycled through every emotion, confusion, frustration, heartbreak, and I had finally hit my limit. She thought I'd break. Thought her guilt trips, manipulation, and threats would wear me down. But she underestimated me. I don't respond to ultimatums. That evening started quietly. Too quietly. Jenna had been silent all day, which made me suspicious. Normally, she'd be blowing up my phone with wedding stuff or venting about something. But that day, nothing. I figured she was gearing up for round 2. And I was right. As soon as we finished dinner, she turned to me. So, have you thought more about what we talked about? I set down my fork and looked her in the eye. Jenna, I don't need to think about it anymore. I made my decision. The answer is no. It's not happening. She crossed her arms, eyes narrowing. You're acting like I asked for the entire company. It's just a small stake, a gesture of appreciation. You're making it into this huge thing. Because it's a huge thing, I snapped. Once I give away shares, I lose control over that part of my business. Your parents could interfere or sell their stake. And if we got divorced, those shares could be part of the settlement. This isn't about appreciation. It's about protecting what I've built. Her lips tightened. If your precious business is that important to you, maybe you shouldn't be getting married at all. We stared at each other. The silence was thick. You know what, Jenna? I said, calm but steady. Maybe you're right. Maybe I shouldn't be marrying you. Her eyes burned. Her chest rose and felt like she was trying not to scream. You'll regret this, she hissed. My parents will think you're greedy and ungrateful. Everyone will. I let out a bitter laugh. Let them. Hell, tell the whole world. I've got nothing to hide. I kept everything, texts, calls, every time you try to guilt me. You really want to play that game? Her face went pale. And for the first time, she looked genuinely shaken. You recorded me? I didn't plan to, I said. But after that stunt with your mom calling me, I figured I needed to protect myself. So yeah, I've got evidence. And if you try to twist the story, I won't hesitate to set the record straight. She opened her mouth like she was going to argue, but then closed it again. She clearly realized she was cornered. Without saying another word, she grabbed her purse and stormed out of the house. The next few days were a mess. Jenna called me nonstop, switching between angry rants and crying fits. At first, I ignored all of it. But eventually, I picked up one of her calls, figuring I might as well hear what she had to say. Aaron, she said, her voice shaking, I'm sorry. I was under so much pressure from my parents. They've been pushing me to make sure our marriage is secure, and I guess I let that get to me. That's not an excuse, Jenna, I said firmly. You didn't just let your parents pressure you. You tried to pressure me. You didn't care how it made me feel, and you definitely didn't think about the consequences. I know, she sniffled, but I didn't mean to hurt you. I love you. I just wanted to make my family happy. If you loved me, I said, my voice calm, you wouldn't have tried to manipulate me into giving up everything I've worked for. Love isn't about forcing someone to sacrifice their dreams just to please your parents. She started crying again, but I didn't stick around to listen. I hung up and blocked her number. In the days that followed, Jenna tried every trick she could think of. She called my parents, my friends, even a few of my business contacts, trying to paint me as the bad guy. The first wave of backlash came from Jenna's parents. No surprise, they weren't happy I'd blocked her. But somehow, her parents managed to get through. The first call came from her mom, who I swear could run for office with how well she spins a story. Hi, Aaron, she said in this overly sweet voice. I just wanted to touch base and clear up any misunderstandings. I'm sure Jenna didn't mean to upset you. I didn't even try to sugarcoat it. There's no misunderstanding, Mrs. Carter. Jenna tried to pressure me into giving you and your husband a stake in my company. When I said no, she threatened to call off the engagement. That seems pretty clear to me. There was a pause. Well, she finally said, maybe she just didn't explain it the right way. You know how passionate she can get. She only wanted to include us because we care so much about her future and yours. I almost laughed. With all due respect, Mrs. Carter, this isn't about passion or care. I built this company from the ground up. I'm not handing it over, and I'm not going to let anyone bully me into it. Her tone turned colder. Aaron, I think you're being very short-sighted. Family is about compromise. If you can't understand that, maybe Jenna was right to reconsider this relationship. Maybe she was, I said, steady as ever. Goodbye, Mrs. Carter. I hung up before she could say anything else and blocked her number 2. The second wave came from mutual friends. Jenna wasted no time twisting the story for anyone who'd listen. According to her, I was some controlling guy who didn't care about family and refused to share the success I supposedly owed to other people. It didn't take long for some friends to reach out, wanting to hear my side. One of them, Emily, texted me, "Hey Aaron, I heard some stuff from Jenna and just want to understand what's really going on. Did you really call off the engagement because she wanted to involve her parents in your business?" I sighed and decided to clear things up quickly. "Emily, here's the short version. Jenna demanded I'd give her parents part of my company as a wedding gift. When I said no, she threatened to break off the engagement. I wasn't about to let myself get manipulated like that, so I walked away. I've got proof if you want to see it." To her credit, Emily replied fast, "Wow, that's not what she told me. Thanks for explaining. I'm sorry you're going through this." That was the pattern with most people. They'd reach out after hearing Jenna's twisted version, but once I gave them the facts, and sometimes a screenshot, they got it. A few people stayed neutral, which was fine, but most supported me. And Jenna? She was losing support fast. Then came the third wave, Jenna herself. After her attempts to turn people against me failed, she changed tactics. Suddenly, I was getting voicemails and emails full of apologies and sob stories. "Aaron, I'm so sorry," one voicemail started. Her voice was shaking, like she was on the verge of tears. "I let my parents get in my head, and I pushed you too far. Please, can we just talk? I love you, and I don't want to lose you." I deleted the message without responding. Love? If that was love, I want to know part of it. Love isn't manipulation. Love isn't threatening someone's dreams to get what you want. A few days later, another email came in. This one even more desperate. "Aaron, please. I made a mistake. I was under so much pressure and I wasn't thinking straight.